Welcome students, and now we're getting into law of cosine, which is assignment 3 in chapter 6. And really, if you've made it past ambiguous case, you've made it past the worst part of this chapter 6 assignments. If you understand how to find if you have one triangle, two triangles, or no triangles, that was the worst part. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at what's given to us now. The key thing about law of cosines is that you're usually going to use this when you have side angle side, or here, let me just look at the next problem, side side side. And the key thing about why we're going to use law of cosine and not law of sine is that we're not given an opposite pair. And what I mean by an opposite pair is like little a and big A, big C and little c, little b and big B. There's no opposite pair I can have. So I can't really do a proportion. I have to be given that. So real quick, when you're taking the quiz, and hopefully we'll have a quiz next week, and again, the quiz will be a summative, and the quiz, we'll have 2 chances to do it. So if you don't do well on the first one, take your time on the second one. We'll get into that discussion next week. But if you look at this, basically what you need to do is now we have to figure out like what's another method, and that's this law of cosine. Now, I've written it out 3 different ways, but I usually just kind of refer to the first one. Just notice it always looks like Pythagorean theorem minus 2 times BC. It always repeats AC and then AB, and then cosine, whatever letter we start with, we end with. We start with B, we end with B. We start with C, we end with C. But notice this is little c, this is capital C. Huge difference. Excuse me, be careful with that. Okay, so let me go ahead and start the first problem here, and we're going to go ahead and just try to find little a, and little a is right here. So let me go ahead and rewrite everything. So a squared, that's going to be, well, I don't know what a squared is, but we're going to try to figure out what a is. B is 5 squared. C is 7 squared minus 2 times 5 times 7. Cosine of a, which is 50. Just make sure that your calculator is in degree mode. I have heard from some of you where you're not downloading the TI free software, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Go to Desmos, use Desmos instead. It works just fine. Just make sure your calculator is in degree mode. I got 29 degrees on that. So the first answer up here will be 29 degrees. And then we move on to the next one. But now that we have what little a is 29. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not 29. There's no way that could be 29. Because don't forget, this is a squared is 29 point blah, 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 blah. I got to take the square root of that. Woo. Real quick, and the reason why I knew 29 was wrong, because that's 5, that's 7. There's no way this can be 29. Not possible. So if I take the square root, I get 5.4, I believe it rounds up to, and it does say rounded to the nearest tenth. 5.4 does seem very reasonable with these numbers that I have here, very close to all together. And now that I have an opposite pair, I have little a and capital A, I'm going to assume you know how to do the rest, where you just have to take 5.4 over sine of 50. And then B, I'll go ahead and do B next. B over sine of, oh, I know what little b is. Let me go back and erase that. Erase. I know what little b is, which is 5. But I'm trying to figure out what b is. Cross multiply. Once you get 2 angles, I'm sorry, 2 of the sides, you're going to have to do Pythagorean. I'm sorry, can't do Pythagorean because it's not a right triangle, but you're going to have to do law of sines again to do the last one and then get the last angle. Oh, I'm sorry, these are angles here. So once you get angle A and angle B, you'll be able to figure out angle C as well. So that should be fine. Let's go to the last problem. I'm not going to finish this one up, so yeah, I'm going to skip that. Let's look at the last problem here. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Let me scroll this up. Now, on this problem, they give us side, side, side. And again, they don't give us any of the opposite pairs. I'm going to go ahead and find capital A since that's the first one there. So what is that? 3 squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2. 9 times 7 cosine. And since I start with 3, I'm going to be finding cosine of A. Now, be careful with this because I get a lot of students that will try to just, oh, I can just go ahead and type all this into the calculator. Not a legal step. This is all multiplying. So technically, I should almost have parentheses around this part where it's all gathered together. You have to solve this algebraically. Take your time going through this. So let me go back, switch my color here. So how do you get rid of plus? You get minus 9 squared, minus 7 squared. And then how do you get rid of multiply over here on this side? Divide, divide. And we get cosine of A. And I have worked this one out. I believe I did. Yeah, I worked it out in advance. And when you solve this, just don't forget, you're going to have to take the inverse of cosine from that previous answer. And when you take that, I got an answer, and it does say go to the nearest degree, 16 degrees. Now, the next part is kind of tricky. You have to kind of read your triangle and read into everything, so just be careful with this. Now that we have an opposite pair, I know little a and I know big A. I have an opposite pair. Go to law of sine. So it's going to be 3 over sine of 16. Let's go ahead and find B next, since it's the next one. 9 over sine of B. And again, you just have to cross multiply. So when you cross multiply, you get 9 times sine of 16 divided by 3. And you have to get rid of the sine. So do the inverse of that answer. Now, this is where you got to be careful. This is where you got to read the triangle and make sure you know what you're solving for. When you actually solve this, I actually got an answer of 55 degrees. And I'm going to warn you, this is incorrect. Analyze the picture. Make sure you analyze it and identify what's going on. B is an obtuse angle. It's obviously larger than 90 degrees. There's no way it's going to be 55 degrees. So what we have to do on this, and this is the problem with, again, the law of sines. If you remember the whole all students take calculus, your calculator is always going to try to find the first answer. The first answer is in the first quadrant. That's 55 degrees. Well, we need to figure out what is 55 degrees, and let me get a different color here. We got to figure out this rotation, the whole rotation over into the second quadrant. Well, how far is this into the second quadrant? 180 degrees. So if you just take your solution there, subtract it from 180 minus 55, I get 125, and that's actually my second answer. So if I have the first one, which is 16, the second one, which is 125, obviously, I'm just trying to find the angles. I should know all three angles add up to 180. So if I take 180 minus 16 minus 125, I get 39 as my final answer. If you actually just subtract that out, check answer. Oh no. So I have to go through back. Looks like I have to modify something on this one, but I'll go back and check it. Just definitely make sure you verify your answers. Make sure you check everything, and I'll check that last one. All right, have a good day. I did find my mistake here. They want me to round that up, and that will be 56. So see, that's how important it is just to make sure you have your answers correctly. So if that's 56, that will be 180 minus 56. Let me do that again. So that's 124. And so if I go over here and make that into 124, and then if I go to the next one, it should be 40. Let me just verify that again. Yeah, that's correct. All right, be careful. Make sure you round correctly. Obviously, if you round just a little bit off there, it will count it incorrectly. So be careful. Have a good day.